Good afternoon, dental internet world. My name is Dr. Vishal Sharma, and I'm once again here alongside my friend and colleague, Dr. Mike Parchewski. You're listening to our podcast, Digital Workflow Dentistry, where we discuss all things digital in the world of dentistry. So, Mike, we're going to take a bit of a left turn with our podcast today, and the focus of our conversation is going to be on team culture. So, in this COVID world that we're all living in, not quite yet the post-COVID world, how are you and your office emphasizing culture, and what are you doing to contribute to building a strong team culture?
Well, it's great. I think this is a great topic to be on with the current environment. And on that note, to me, that's what the important thing is about. People are worried. There's stress. There's unsure times. People have financial stress. So the last thing they want to do when they come to work is have work stress. So I really think, and we've always tried to do that at our office, is that we're building a culture here where people want to be here. We're building a culture and we're building a team of people that you would be friends with. It's people that you would hang out with. It's people that you would follow on social media. It's people that you respect. Mm-hmm. And so I think when we're hiring people, we have to take into those accounts. Would this be a person that I would hang out with? Yes, you have to be a leader. Yes, you have to be, delegating in that. But realistically, I think having that family feel, that team feel, and being that we are a part of one larger unit working together is important. And I think that's been a real key thing for helping our office get through this COVID time. And post-COVID, having people not get into a negative vibe at the office, and really, we're just been keep plugging away. I think that's really important. What about you? What do you feel about it?
Well, I echo those sentiments. We've certainly changed a bit of our philosophy coming out of the COVID break. And you mentioned things like people wanting to be there, or people that you would want to potentially hang out with socially outside of the office. So for us, the real emphasis is people who feel that the clinic should be moving in the same direction. So we're not necessarily looking for extremely talented people who might have a different idea or a different concept as to what the practices should entail. One of our newest undertakings is we do what we call our Monday morning coffee. So 45 minutes before the start of our day, we meet off-site initially, and now with some COVID restrictions, we're confined back to the clinic. Everyone brings a coffee, and what we're doing is basically just discussing our weekend for the first little bit, and then we get into the topic of dentistry. And so this last Monday, we were discussing twin light therapy, which is essentially a periodontal therapy, which at some point we may discuss on the podcast. And it's just a new initiative where we're not all feeling as busy. We're not as production oriented. A lot of values changed with COVID. I know for you, your focus on a few things has obviously changed as well. And I think what we all view as important may have been modified, and for some people maybe changed significantly and astronomically. So for us, we're making more of the emphasis on team involvement, team engagement, and bringing on people who are like-minded and that they're actively going to contribute ideas and implementations to team culture. And if that's really not what they want to be doing, there's certainly offices where they would fit more effectively at. But that's moving forward. When we bring people on, that's what we're going to be looking for. Yeah. And prior to the COVID world, it was a different scenario. We were looking and wanted people who were high achievers, were really good hygienists, great assistants, fantastic phone skills at the front end, even if maybe they didn't quite gel or mesh with the person next to them as effectively. Now that's flipped over.
Yeah, I do agree. It's really good to have everybody on the same page and working together. Better to be a happy place than everybody's competing with each other.
And Mike, that brings us to our interview for today. We have two of our friends and colleagues, Dr. Amreesh Khanna and Dr. Vik Khanna, who are here to discuss the topic of team culture and community involvement for dentists. So gentlemen, welcome to our podcast in our studio in downtown Calgary. Mike and I are both intimately familiar with both of you. We know you well as friends and colleagues, but why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourselves?
Thanks for having us, guys. So I guess I'm going to introduce Amreesh, if that's okay. So Amreesh is my older brother by about 3.5 years, and he graduated from U of A in 2007, completed a general practice residency at Montefiore Medical Center with Mike, actually, while you were over there as well, and came back to Calgary and has been working since, and partnered with his younger brother in 2012 at our practice Midtown Dental in Mission. And since then, we've acquired a second practice about 2 years ago in downtown Calgary as well.
Nice, yeah, and I get the pleasure of introducing my younger brother, Dr. Vik Khanna. Also U of A grad. We had the pleasure of living together for 1 year in Edmonton together while I was in fourth year and him in first year. And also went out to New York after he graduated from dental school at the U of A as well too. So that allowed for many frequent trips for the both of us to near the Big Apple, right? Been practicing together, as he mentioned. My wife also is a dentist, practiced with us as well too. Both of us keen interests, in surgery, sedation, and community involvement in dentistry. So that's been something that I know we both have shared together, and that brings us to kind of where we are today. And happy to talk with you guys, and thank you for having us on the podcast.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. It's interesting. This is a good case study on does older make wiser. Any comments? Would you? Or is that going to lead into a scrap here? Maybe we'll move on. Now, first of all, guys, as we're back into practice now post-COVID, for you guys, listeners probably would like to hear, how have you found that, what's the new normal for you guys? Not to overuse that phrase, but what are you guys finding it's like now?
Yeah, we found, luckily we spent quite a bit of time at the later end of that time off to try to prepare as much as we could getting back to work. But in reality, we really didn't know what we were getting back to. There was a lot of fear and stuff like that. I think now with the systems we have in place about the donning, doffing procedures, going through it for so many times, it's become more almost like second nature. And I feel like, at least in Calgary, the fear of getting coronavirus from doing dentistry is kind of, at least we have some semblance of understanding that we're not going to go to work and do a recall and get coronavirus, which is given our team a lot of relief, and it's helped us treat our patients. And we've done, I think, much like you guys and other practices in Calgary, things have kind of returned back to somewhat of a normal. A lot of changes in how patients flow through the practice, but overall we are seeing it return pretty normal. Yeah.
I think all the stuff that we had to implement in the beginning was tough. Because it's a change to our day-to-day, or change to our regular, what we're used to. And I think change is always hard for anybody to adapt to. And we were forced with a lot of changes through the couple months in COVID. But now, it's no different than throwing on a mask and gloves. You do what you got to do because that's just part of it. And I think a big thing that we found, coming back post-COVID was in talking about team today, for us, a big piece was, what are the big messages that we need to make sure are coming out in every interaction that we have. And coming first and foremost, when we were talking about some of the stuff that Vic's talking about, protocols, it was safety and connection. And I think those are the two big things that we kept stressing with our team, and still are stressing to today, is that how do we ensure that patients feel safe, team feels safe? That's first and foremost. And secondly, how do we connect with our team and our patients? Because you're wearing a mask all day long, you don't get to see people's facial expressions, those kind of things. So just trying to do different fun things there to make patients know who we are, and still connecting with the team in ways that we would have before. So
such as the occasional headbutt with your face shields.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Nothing builds team rapport like that. So that's fitting, Amreesh, because obviously you guys have an impressive educational platform named DENTalks, and it primarily discusses the business of dentistry, but also that includes team culture. So elaborate as to why you guys started this, what was the genesis on it, and what do you hope to accomplish with it?
Yeah, so another side of our practice is we have a referral practice called Midtown Sedation. So we see patients that get referred to us for sedation procedures, surgical procedures throughout, working with lots of other dentists in the city. And when this formally came into inception, it would have been 2014. At that time, part of what we wanted to start was, how do we also create a community connection amongst colleagues where we can work to give back as partners in care of their patients. And the big thing there was bringing together like-minded dentists, where we can look at growing our practices clinically and also growing our practices from a business perspective too. there's enough of us around in the city of Calgary where, there's many who are worried about competition, but there's enough patients to go around, and there's enough of, we're not overly saturated in the sense that we have to be worried about every dentist next door kind of thing. We're fortunate for that, and to be able to find ways where we can really grow collectively and learn from each other's experiences, learn from things that have worked, haven't worked. We've unfortunately, how I say it, our practice got flooded in 2013 in Mission. So that was our first year essentially into ownership for our first practice. So we were forced very, very quickly in our ownership entrepreneur part of our careers to have to learn things that probably some dentists never learn in 30 years in practice, and never have to, fortunately for them, right? So we had to learn a lot of stuff about the business and really figure out how do we get that going and rolling again. And if we can find ways to just at least impart some of our experience, not saying that that's the only way to do it, but bring collective minds together, I think then we all grow collectively together too. So that's really the premise behind DENTalks, and through that, having team involvement is at the core of it, because we as leaders have to be able to set the vision, set our values, but we have to be able to lead our team to follow it, right? So
right. So who's some of the people you've had in so far for DENTalks?
Yeah, we had
so we have Michael Cernick came, who's he used to be formerly the owner of Primescan. So he came by. So we try to do one big team event per year, and then we've had some smaller speakers that are locally that have been lecturing on more intimate settings with maybe only 20 dentists or so. We had a speaker on HR. We've had other speakers come in on finance or other accounting practices, things like that. We have resources that we can provide our group and our members. But our big speakers was Michael Cernick, and then this year we were going to have Paul Homily come and speak with us in May, but due to COVID that's been postponed for now.
Yeah, two fantastic speakers. I've had the opportunity to take both of their seminars, and they're transformative, to say the least. So, Amreesh, you touch base obviously on the team approach and touching base with team and ensuring that you're establishing a culture. So, Vik, why do you feel that team culture is so important for the future of dentistry in this post-COVID world that we're going to be getting into?
Yeah, especially we talk a lot about how change has been really transformative for how we operate as dentists, as a team, in treating our patients. A lot of people, as I mentioned, had fear coming back and trying to create some real reason for why we were coming back. What are our true role as providers for our patients in treating them and helping them establish good oral health. So if there's like a kind of an avenue in which patient or our team feels like this is kind of how this is really their motive, this is their why and why they're coming back, and having the proper systems in place that everybody can really buy into, and having those two things go at the same time helps I think dentists in general improve their practices. When we talk about DENTalks, and one of the things like Amreesh mentioned is as dentists we go through so many challenges the same ways, marketing challenges, but internal financial challenges, or even how to deal with staff are huge challenges. So things within the practice, they don't involve other practices, but we all go through at the same time. If we can, culture being a big part of that, HR being a big part of that, if we can create a kind of a group or have an understanding as a collective kind of industry of why this is important and how we can really focus on that to help us be better leaders and operate better as business owners. And culture is so why to answer your question you started with, is why is that important, is because we feel like if we can have buy-in from our teams when we want to do great things, do different types of dentistry that are require a little bit more work from everybody, or do higher billing procedures or involve new technologies. If everybody really feels like they're on the same team rowing in the same direction, it's just easier to make that happen. And it's a really challenging thing to establish that type of culture, but it does pay out as we go along. And Simon Sinek and Paul Homily, even how they talk about culture and how important that is. It really does make a big difference in the long run.
Yeah, I think it's important because we're looking at it at a lot of different levels. One level is as dentists, we're notorious, and same with chiropractors and a lot of other professions, for being very single-minded, for being, this is my bubble, nobody comes in my bubble, I'm going to stay there, and we don't collaborate a lot with others. It's that a little bit of a competitive vibe, or just that solo practitioner mentality. And I think in a lot of the things that we're doing, and a lot of what we're doing with the podcasting and that, is the concept of hiding information really doesn't help in the big picture of things. And so I really like the concept, of sharing information. Why should somebody, and what Vish and I, the biggest reason we got into doing what we're doing is, why should somebody else have to go through all the mistakes, all the iterations of digital scanning that we've gone through to get to the same place? Why can't we give them that information, the Coles Notes version of where they should go? And that's been one of our driving forces, is trying to get people to a higher level faster by sharing that information. And I've really, what drew me to your guys, your lectures and your platform is, first of all, was the DENTalks that was coming up, but also you guys had did a couple more study club level on COVID. How are we going to get through COVID? How do we prepare coming out of COVID? And it was just sending it out, no charge things. You got a bunch of dentists involved, and it really helps, I think, the community feel. And so I really feel that the dentists, we have to be more in that community feel, and that will just raise the bar for everybody. And then beyond that, I also think, you mentioned it with Simon Sinek, that it's super important that our staff and team members feel safe in their environment. Whenever you have a staff member that feels like they're an outsider, that's when the backstabbing, that's when the work performance and everything goes down. So, and COVID has just highlighted that. I really feel that the offices that have gotten through COVID without much bumps in the road are the offices that had that team environment where people felt safe and secure, so that it wasn't a big step to move on to these other levels, the new PPE. Mm-hmm. But the offices that didn't have that, the offices that had an environment that was, and I won't say toxic, but not super positive, I think those are the offices that are having people that aren't coming back, the people that don't want to come back, the people that are delaying returning, the people that are unhappy, the people that don't feel comfortable. And so I really think that whole culture vibe helps us to get through these kind of big changes that nobody can really plan for, right? Mm-hmm. Now, on that community level, because we talked about the community level of the dentist, the community level of the teams. Now, Amreesh, you've taken on another venture of giving back to the community. Can you tell us a little bit about that program?
Yeah. So giving back in the community has always been a really big core part of who I am and what I've done since the days of dental school. We're brought up that way with our parents. We're very much always involved in community. And so it's been part of something that I've wanted to do for quite some time now, is like, how can I find a way to really find a way to give back? But, do I do that in just any form, or do I kind of find a way to align the skill set that I'm blessed with as a dentist? So, in my kind of search of how I want to do that, I figured, well, I'm lucky to be a dentist and I have this ability to give back directly to patients. And on the same note, giving back can follow many forms. So that's where I founded this initiative called Cause to Smile. And during COVID, I felt us in the dental profession, we were in some way, rightfully so, sidelined in terms of patient care. Like, we couldn't really be involved in helping patients, though as a healthcare practitioner, that's at the core of, I think, who we are. So how could we find a way to, again, collectively come together, find a way to give back in a collective fashion? And that's where Cause to Smile kicked it off with its first initiative here at the end of June, started July, with partnering with Canadian Blood Services. And I did a blood donation campaign here in Calgary and Edmonton. So it was spread through all the dental community through Alberta. And we had, enough donors that came out to save up to potentially 120 lives for patients. So that was an awesome first start. And it's planned to be kicked off in Ontario next in September. So looking to rally the dental community out there, and then hopefully have a few people who are interested in getting involved. But my goal would be to kind of kick this off nationwide and get dentists all throughout the country that will be helpful, and work with me as what I'm calling a local champion to be able to help spread the cause in all of our provinces. And we can look back collectively and say, hey, here's one way to give back. And I'm not making this is not specific to blood donation and claiming blood services, but it's one way right now when, finances are tight for many people. Trying to donate money or donate time is tough as well too, because we're all in the midst of starting our practices and making sure our livelihood is number one and taking care of our families. So this was just one way that just involved a little bit of time and obviously something that we all have to give. So yeah, so I was able to give blood for the first time. Despite me giving giving needles all day long, I've had the odd moment of getting faint when I've had blood taken before. So I was quite
so you made
proud
it,
of myself.
you made it through?
I made it through.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No shame in the occasional fainting, I don't think. Well, it's an admirable venture, obviously, Amreesh, so we commend you on that. And, as is DENTalks, the platform is impressive to me because not only does it cover the business aspect of things when we're talking about financial components to running a practice, the HR aspect, but I also like the fact that you're engaging team and building that culture. And I have taken a lot of courses over the years, whether they're transformative courses down at LVI or full treatment planning courses through the Spear Institute or John Coyce. I've never encountered something that covers all of the aspects that you guys are covering. So well done on that aspect. What's next for DENTalks? What do you have planned? COVID and Paul Homily not being able to fly into Canada notwithstanding.
Yeah. Go ahead. Well, yeah, I guess we really want to obviously have an event at some point in the near future, get people together, especially given the fact that we're really trying to focus partly on the cultural side of things, which involve people coming together in teams. But as we go along, we're still engaging heavily with our group of dentists that are part of our kind of study club, you could call it. And we have a constant communication that goes with those people. It's very collaborative. It's helping all those people kind of work together with certain issues that they're having in their practices. And we see that just growing, and we're open to having anybody join that really as we go along. And we have people from Ontario, from BC, from Edmonton, Calgary, everywhere, and really in Canada, part of this group. So that's kind of the short term, I guess you could say, and us giving, sharing knowledge collectively.
And Vik, where would we get information on that, or for those people who are listening in and if they're interested? And I would encourage those people certainly to look into it. I've had colleagues who are involved with your study club. Obviously, Mike and I have chatted extensively about it. So where would we get that information?
Yeah, right now everything's on our midtownsedation.ca website, but we do have a DENTalks website in the works right now that's going to be up and running in the next couple of weeks. Okay. So, yeah.
And will that be dentalks.com?
.ca.
.ca. Okay. So everybody keep an eye out for that coming up for more information on that. But, guys, it was really awesome having you here. I feel that you guys are just doing a whole nother level of things. I honestly, with young children, I don't know where you guys get all the time and energy. And we've had a hard enough time, sticking with the podcasting and the webinars, but hats off to you to continuing to do that. And when your time is tight, especially giving back and doing the blood services campaign, really awesome. And I think that could bridge off into all kinds of things, in the future. And I think trying to go nationally with that is very impressive.
Yeah, no, it's an impressive undertaking for sure. And we're excited to see where the DENTalks platform goes. You both obviously have good heads on your shoulders and a lot of vision, two things that Mike and I lack entirely. So on that note, gentlemen, we're going to let you get back to your young families and or the driving range, Amreesh, to work on your golf game. And we'll certainly invite you back at some point if you'd be willing to be guests again.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for having us on your podcast. I really appreciate it. It's awesome learning from both of you as well, too. So thank you.
Right on.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Take care. And with that note, that'll end our podcast today. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Please check out our Instagram at Digital Workflow Dentistry with links to the podcast, links to our YouTube, and we're on YouTube. We're at Digital Dentist. Take care and be well, everyone.